Hey guys, here we are, Monster Motivator number 23. We are with my friend Kellie Fitzgerald. Sorry about the delay. Again, I'm not the most technical guy you're gonna ever meet. So like I tell people, I know proteins. I don't know the technical world. So Monster Motivator 23. I'm very excited to have you on. She is a serial. You thought I was going to say something else. She's a serial entrepreneur. And she has multiple businesses, and I think that's why we connected. Same way, right?
Yep.
You get bored very quick, right? Always looking for something new. But let's start from the beginning. Where did all this come in? Where did it all start, right? Where are you at now, and where do you see yourself going? So introduce yourself, and let's start from there.
My first business was actually a landscaping business, and it was started when I was 12.
Okay.
So this has been something I've always done. I always have started businesses. Over the years, the business has changed, but it was always, I saw ways that people needed to be helped.
Okay.
And I would start a business to help that.
You were looking for that void.
Right.
Fill that void. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these days I own a publishing company which specializes in indie authors who have not been published or have trouble getting their message out. Okay. And a internet radio network.
Okay, well let's go back though. 12 years old. What do you think? What happened? How did that? I mean, were you surrounded? Well, but were you surrounded with entrepreneurs? Did you grow up with that world, or you just feel like it's your DNA?
Well, my grandmother always worked, but she did kind of dabble in businesses. Okay. But and that's probably where I got it from.
At least it started. Yeah. It started that way. Yeah. And so at 12 years old, what did you do? Go door to door? How did you go do your
I
landscape
actually
business?
did.
We want to hear this. This is juicy stuff. This is good because there's so many people that are afraid. Right?
Right, to do anything.
To walk off that cliff, right, and figure out how to build that plane on the way down. And at 12 years old, if you're knocking on doors, saying that you're a landscaper, we want to hear that.
It was just a lawnmower. I had a lawnmower and some gardening tools. Okay. And I would pick
a little wagon.
Yeah, I literally had my little brother's red wagon.
Okay.
And I hooked it to the back of the lawnmower. So when I pushed the lawnmower, the wagon with all the tools followed me. Okay. And I lived in an area that had a lot of older people. Okay. And a lot of the yards, because I had been in the country and I just moved to town. Okay. So
Where was this?
In Texas. Okay. Yeah. And this woman needs her lawn done. Yeah. You know, why can't I do this? And people started paying me. Initially, I didn't even ask to be paid.
Wow.
It was just something, you need your yard done. You know, I was very bored.
Okay.
And I got bored very easily, and I would alternate between going and seeing who I could help next and writing. I always wrote. So those were my two big passions. And,
okay. How long did you do the landscaping?
You know, I actually sold that company. I actually grew that company for about 10 years and sold it as a company.
So you grew this company from 12 years old.
Yeah, and it actually turned into something. Who knew?
That's pretty amazing.
It was just
really. I mean, you know, they're going from door to door at 12 years old, building a business and selling it. Yeah.
Well, then I did a pet sitting company, so you know, I just picked things that I like to do, and I get bored very, very easily. Okay. So I go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next.
But there's a little more. There's more layers to it, right? Yeah, that I want to share with people because really, and I tell people all the time, there's nothing new in personal development, right? No, it all goes back to antiquity, but it's whatever that person brings to the table that resonates with you, but it's always the same recipe, just different ingredients. Right. At 12 years old, right, whether you knew it or not, you figured out a void. There's a void. Yeah. What can I do to provide service, value, to fill that void?
Well, I like to make people happy, and that's where
that was your why. That was I always ask people, what is their why, right? So you wanted to make people happy. Right. Okay. Yep. And then you didn't even realize you could make money out of it. And all of a sudden, people started to pay you.
That kind of came as a shock
Okay.
that people would pay me for something that felt like play. It didn't feel like work. It felt like, you know, I was just doing something that was fun.
Amazing, amazing,
So,
absolutely amazing.
yeah.
So you've been an entrepreneur your whole life.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So now you built this landscape business.
Yep.
12 years old.
Yep.
Sold it 10 years later.
Yeah.
And then that gave you the capital to start your pet sitting.
Actually, that gave me the capital to go into real estate.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, let's talk about that.
It was, in my mind, it was the next logical step. You're doing
Okay.
the yards, you may as well have the house. You know?
Right.
But I started, I ended up being a single mom, very young age, and without a lot of education. So real estate was something I found I could do and make some money at it.
Okay.
And because I do get bored very easily, I would start businesses on the weekend.
Okay.
And pet sitting was one of those businesses that I started on the weekend.
So how did you, let's talk about the landscape, or real estate. What did you do? How did you get into it?
I was looking for a job that I could make some money at.
Okay.
And somebody told me, hey, you should be a real estate agent. And I said, huh, okay, I'll be a real estate agent, because that's the way I was. Okay, I'll do that.
Right,
You know?
right.
So I did that, and I worked my way up through broker, and I've owned my own company for a very long time. But in addition to real estate, I've always done other
Businesses.
things.
Right.
Always,
Just
always
because
done.
we're bored.
Yeah.
We get bored very quick. Yeah.
Very quickly.
My
Yeah.
attention span is very, very short,
Yes.
very limited. So I get it. But you know, when it goes back to, like you said, limited education. You know,
Right.
my story is built and sold 3 companies over the last 20 years, but left back in the 2nd grade,
Yep.
diagnosed with ADD,
Yep.
said I had a learning disorder, and never graduated high school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it, right?
You know,
And-
they tell you you'll never do anything. Yeah, watch me. Yeah.
And well, you know
That's
what
it
though?
comes down to.
Again, even though if you couldn't define that recipe, you did it
Yeah.
without even realizing
Right.
it, because that's what came natural to you. Because our EQ probably trumps our IQ
Right.
so much, but the EQ is the most important. And I always say this: it's really a shame that personal development's not taught from day one, because that's what really counts. Right? That's what puts the bread on the table.
Yep.
And that's what counts. So, okay, now real estate, pet sitting. Do you still have the pet sitting business?
No, I sold the pet sitting company when I moved to Arizona. So
Okay.
but I still own a real estate company.
Okay.
And
Out in
still-
Arizona?
Yep. Still
All right.
do a lot of things. I started writing a book because I've always written, and my book came out of, I went through a period of time where I was very unhealthy. Became physically very unhealthy. It was a long journey back.
So where did you, let's go back to that, right? Where did you think you fell off? What happened?
I went through a period of time where I was very, very stressed, and I think that's what brought on my disease.
You think through the real estate?
Yeah. Well, no, it was just in my personal
life? Okay.
I sort of did the cancer dance, and
okay.
Twice.
Okay.
And I just got very, very unhealthy. And when you go through it the first time, you're like, yes, I made it. I've survived. When it happens again, you're like, really? Really?
Right, right.
So I got very depressed, and
Okay,
the
so-
only thing that saved me was writing.
Oh,
So
okay.
through writing my book, I ended up shopping for publishing, and couldn't find a publisher interested. So I said, well, okay, I'll start my own publishing company, because that's what I do.
This is real monster mode right here. You want to talk about the Monster Motivator? She makes me look like I'm standing still. So let's get back. Let's talk about the book a little bit later. But let's go back. I mean, you're a 2-time cancer survivor.
Yeah.
So, how did you get back onto that healthy? I'm assuming, you tell me if this is right. So after you beat it the first time, did you go into the healthy mode?
I did, but when it came back, I threw all of that aside. I said, you know what? I did it. It
out
didn't
of
work.
frustration?
Yeah, frustration,
okay.
depression. I
Okay.
went through a very severe depression where I became very suicidal. People around me were coming in and checking on me just to make sure I hadn't found something sharp.
How long of a window?
About 18 months.
Wow,
It was
over a year.
It was a long time. The only thing that made me survive was I just kept writing.
Okay.
And
What does that do? How does that
it's
help
very
you?
cathartic. It's
Okay.
very cathartic. I
Okay.
could sit there and write things that I would never want anyone to read.
Right.
Just, you know, the deepest, darkest things I was feeling.
But it's like therapy for you, huh?
It's very therapeutic. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Physically writing.
Yeah. And I didn't type it out either. It was
That's...
pen and paper, and that was the most therapeutic.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I put it all in a book anyway, and released it. All that stuff that I didn't want anybody to read.
So interesting. Yeah. It's so interesting because my therapy is moving, motion. Right? I want to be in motion because then I think so much clearer. That's why, like, I'm at the gym, you know, 4:30 in the morning, my alarm goes off. That's my iron therapy. But if I'm stressed, like during the day, if I can just either drive or move, that's motion therapy for me. Is just, I have to have it. So it's like oxygen to me. So right now, do you still write a lot? Do you still?
I still write. Okay. I have actually gotten back to doing some of that motion therapy you talked about because for a long time I was bedridden.
Oh, so do you get something out of that? The motion therapy?
Yeah. Okay. And what I usually do is I will walk and then I go home and I write about it.
Now, let me ask you this. 18 months, you're in that funk, right? You were writing, working through it.
Yep.
Was there an actual aha moment or was it a gradual thing? Like, because people really... There's people down here that might be going through it, or...
You know, there was an aha moment.
There was.
And what it was is I got mad at God.
Okay.
I had started meditating. I had started doing my Tai Chi in the morning. I had started doing things again, and I wasn't feeling that I was really making progress.
Connected. Okay.
And one morning, I just said, okay, what gives? I'm doing everything right.
Right.
Why isn't it
physically
working?
Okay.
And I heard a voice, and the voice said, because you didn't take out your trash. And that's the name of my book, is When on the Road to Enlightenment, Don't Forget to Take Out the Trash.
Okay, so
that's where it came from.
Let's dig into this. So there was an aha moment.
Yeah.
You didn't take out the trash.
Yep.
But define that for us. Break that down for us, because...
Right. And the trash is all that internal stuff that we hold on to.
Okay.
A lot of anger, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And in my case, it was a lot of, but I thought I was doing everything right.
Because you want to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
Right? You're a caregiver.
And what ended up happening was I nearly killed myself and made everybody around me miserable because I held on to all of that frustration.
All that toxic.
All of that stuff.
Right? All that toxic stuff, which now manifested in a physical issue.
I fully believe that.
Oh, I'm a firm believer. Yeah. So you had that aha moment. You started to dig out. Right, and then what? Then what's the next step? This is really neat.
I wrote my book and started my publishing company, and somewhere along the line, I have a friend, Annette Rochelle Aben, who had an internet radio show, and she said, "Your story is fantastic. Come be a guest on my show." And I went, "No," and she said, "What do you mean no?" I said, "I don't think I can do radio." And she said, "Are you kidding me?" So she practically drug me kicking and screaming onto her show.
Okay, this is what's interesting to me, right? So far, from 12 years old, there's nothing that you didn't think you could do.
Right.
What do you think that paradigm stop was for radio?
I think it was fear of success. I think it was absolute fear of success.
Okay, so
absolutely.
This is actually much better than I even imagined. No, seriously, because when I speak, right, for my keynotes, I speak on leadership, but I tie in how to identify and crush through those dreaded fear barriers. Now, in order to do that, you need to identify, what the fear of the unknown, the fear of that darkness, the fear of failure. But so many people don't realize what the fear of success really means, and it stops them every single time. So give me your definition of the fear of success.
What my fear was everything's going to change. People are going to listen to me. What if they don't like me? What if some crazy person finds out where I live and comes crazy to my house?
But the fear of what if?
But it was that what if thing. Beyond that, though, it was everything's going to change. Are my friends still going to like me if I succeed? And I got that very, very clearly during a meditation. I had been through so much, And it just, you know, I just blurted it out in the middle of a meditation. Fortunately, nobody is usually around me when I'm doing my meditations because they would lock me away. But because I get an insight and it's just blah, you know.
Right, but you're so dialed in, right, that you're so in tune.
And it took a long time to get there.
Oh, it's not, I mean.
And it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I mean, to meditate,
right.
For me, you'd want to talk about a job, it would be a job for me.
But you can do motion meditation. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about that. So that's my definition of afraid of success, right? The fear of success is, like you said, is who's that new person I need to become?
Right.
What are my new responsibilities?
I have to change.
Right. The fear of change.
Right.
Huge.
Yeah,
right. Huge. So, okay, how did you start to? Was it the meditation that helped break through that?
It was, because after I did her show, it was the floodgates open. It's like, you can't get me to shut up on the radio now.
You just blew right through that fear barrier.
Yeah, and it was the first 5 minutes of that show, and I downloaded it and I listened to it periodically. And the first 5 minutes of that show, it was like, yes, no, and something happened. Something in the back of my head clicked, and all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, here's my platform. All right.
Just something clicked.
Yeah, and you know, a month after that, I had my own first show. And 6 months after that, I had 3 shows, and now I have a whole network of shows.
And I was fortunate enough to be on your show. We'll do another episode.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to, and you tell me if you agree with this, is I call fear barriers, the bully.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the only way to really stop a bully is to step right up.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And in order to do that, you have to really understand certain processes, certain steps, because I believe that we all hear this, right? Face your fear and it's going to disappear. There is a certain truth to that, but there's more layers. Yeah. And I kind of break it down this way, and tell me if this relates to you or resonates with you. Is I call it the bully buster, right? It's a 4-step formula, 4-step process. The first step is identifying your goal. What's your goal? What's your destination? And I always say it has to have the dynamic duo. Right. It has to scare you and excite you at the same time.
Absolutely.
Or it's doesn't have enough juice.
Right.
Second step is identifying your why. Is it big enough? And I always say, when your why becomes bigger than you want to make people happy, you become unstoppable. Right. Third step, what's the action you're taking? Getting you closer, farther away. And we talked about this even before we went on camera, that law of attraction, that magic, right? And I'm looking over because we talked about this before we got on, but I always say, when you take consistent positive action towards that scary goal, right, it starts to be magical. The people and the circumstances start to come into your life to make it unfold. Right. But if you stop taking that action, they stop appearing. Right. Double-edged sword. And then fourth is what I call the game changer, the most underutilized, misunderstood step, and that's your self-talk. What are you telling yourself on a daily basis? Now I'm gonna, and that leaves us with our results, right? Which is our self-image. So if you're not happy with your results, just go back to the top and reevaluate. Right. But I'm going to ask you something. Well, first of all, does that resonate with you? Does that make a lot of sense? Yeah. Secondly, is my guess here is, because I believe it's such a game changer, the self-talk. Yep. When you're writing, when you're doing that therapeutic writing, does that help that inner coach? Absolutely. Do you feel like that actually? Right. So this is such a huge point to get, because I'm such a fan of self-talk. Right. Right. I mean, I had a book that changed my life. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Chad Helmstetter. It changed my life. So I'd love to be able to break that down for people. Would that be accurate? That
absolutely.
It actually changed your inner coach, your self-talk.
One of the things that I did was I would catch myself when I was talking negatively. I can't do that. And I would just write it down, just get it out, just dump it, and then go back and cross it out. I had a special red pen. I would cross it out and say, I can do this. And things like that, and just go right back down the list. And
now, have you ever tried recording it? So I do that all the time. Right. Since I've been introduced to the book. So you write down the affirmations, you write down the quotes, and then you record that in your own voice, and you listen to it. I listen to it at the gym. I listen to it during the day when I'm driving, because it absolutely helps with self-talk. So again, I love this, because it's, again, the same recipe, just different ingredients. Right. For how you got there. Exactly. So now we are, we beat Look at this. I'm already on your team. We beat cancer for the second time.
Right.
You got out of this funk.
Yep.
Now what?
Then I started helping other people do that. That's actually what happened. Why I did my radio in the first place is because I started doing workshops, mostly at women's shelters, but also cancer survivor workshops. And how do you keep putting one foot in front of the other?
Okay.
You know, how do you do that?
Right.
And that evolved into a writing workshop because I'm a writer. That's my tool that I use, and I would teach people how to do that.
Okay.
And how to journal. When people say journal, what does that mean?
Right.
You know,
right.
and did very basic workshops, and people kept telling me you should do a show. You should do a show. So I did. I took all of the people. I met some wonderful, wonderful people doing my radio show, and I tried to scour the internet for who is making the biggest impact right now.
Okay.
And I take those people that are making the biggest impact with whatever it is that they're doing, and get them on the show and help them get their message out. And through helping other people get their message out, I've helped so many different people.
And how it comes back.
Yeah, it's
did we
fantastic.
connect on LinkedIn? How did we connect?
I think we did on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. I think that's how it originally happened.
Yep.
Okay, so now, what are you doing now? What's going on? Because we started from 12 years old, right? And like I said, I'm already on your team. So what's going on now? What do you got going?
Publishing company, Ibby Lane Press. I've got a book on domestic violence that is coming out in October. That we are still it's a compilation. We still have some room for some more stories if anybody wants to contribute.
What made you pick domestic violence?
My daughter's father was highly abusive.
Okay.
Very, very abusive.
Okay.
He actually broke my jaw.
So you lived that.
So I lived through it.
That was a whole part of your life.
Right. That was early on in my life, and it's just something that when I see, I do coaching, and when I have a bunch of people in a short period of time come to me with relatively the same things, I go, okay, need to do a book on that. And that's where this came from.
Okay.
I had a number of coaches, or coaching clients who had come to me and, you know, I'm getting out of this abusive relationship, or I had an abusive relationship decades ago and I keep finding that it's blocking me still, those kinds of things. So that's where that came from.
When will the book be done?
Hopefully October.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Keep me posted. We'll do a book launch.
Okay.
Right. We'll do another Monster Motivator TV. And so let's go back to the first book. So break down that first book for us.
The first book was really my journey back to me.
Okay.
And very simply, that's what it is. It's just I became somebody else.
Okay.
And I became someone that I didn't like and I didn't want to be, and you know that wasn't working. So I had to find a way back to who I was before I started sliding down. And I think it kind of becomes a downward spiral for a lot of people. Okay. You kind of, once you start going down that
slippery path,
it just, you can't, it's really hard to get back up.
Well, and that's what I want to talk about, because I know we might even have some questions. Let me see if because I can't read it from back here, that's for sure. Oh, Lisa, yeah, loving the inspiring the women, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. People they need to know this, right? They want to know, but there's so many levels to your life, right? I had no idea that we were going to go into.
It's a long, strange trip.
Yeah, but here's what I always say: is what you're sharing is something you can never get in a classroom. It's wisdom. It's real life. Nothing's theory. Yeah. So your books are based on real life wisdom. Yep. So I'm gonna be that guy out there asking you questions, right? Someone or a girl, right? So Kelly, how I want to start a business, right? I'm a single mom. I have 3 kids.
Yep.
We're living check to check.
Yep, you get that one all the time.
Right? What do I do? How do I do it? How do I find the courage? What do I do? What do you say?
Keep your eye on your ultimate goal and put one foot in front of the other. It's not easy. And the one thing that I really help people do is transition a hobby that something they really love to do into a business. Because if you really love to do it, you are more likely to stick with the building process.
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of clients who have said, I'm just going to buy this. And well, do you love that? Well, no, but it'll make some money. Well, if you don't love it, how are you going to feel when you have to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, or when you're staying up all night,
right?
doing your
in
books.
Your office.
Yeah, so it really does have to be something that you love to do. That's the first one. And I always encourage people to build a business part-time.
Okay.
Because if you give up your job to start your business, you've just increased that stress level exponentially.
Right, especially if you're in that position that I talked about, right? Obviously, if you're in another position, that's a different story. But they want to know how, that single mom wants to know, how do I get that courage? How do I keep moving?
Right.
So you're just going to take one step in front of the other.
Yep.
Now, here's what I want to touch on too, because I never want to let anybody off the hook. You just talked about something that's so huge. Do what you love. Now, for everyone out there that's starting to throw out excuses, save it.
Right.
Because we are living in a world, a time right now, that is like the Industrial Revolution. We create our own brand. We create our own media. It's going to get to a point very shortly that they're going to come to you. You don't have to go to them. And that's where we're at. So save the excuses. If you really want help, this is someone you need to listen to, because she's done it. She's been there. Yep. So I have to put that out. I feel better now. Okay, I have a business. I'm struggling. I'm feeling like I don't see an out. I'm starting to lose money in my business, and I'm feeling really stressed. What do I do?
Go back to remembering why you started the business.
Your why. Okay.
You have to have a why. It has to be huge. It has to be bigger than anything else.
Okay.
There were many times I've grown and sold many businesses, you know, and when I decide it's ready to sell a business, the way I do that is I lose my why. You know, you go through a period of time where you're so invested in this business, and then one day you realize, you know what, well, at least in my case, because I kind of do a lot of things, I don't want to do this anymore.
Man, it's like a sister from another mister right here. It's unbelievable. Because my story, one of my big aha moments was my very first business that I built. It was a public adjusting firm in Philadelphia, and I wanted to sell. After 5 years, I wanted out. Right? Way too much paperwork, way too much office time.
Yep.
But I was afraid, because that's what I knew. Right. And it took a motorcycle accident that almost killed me or paralyzed me to make me realize that, listen, tomorrow's not guaranteed. Right. Within a year of that motorcycle accident, I sold that business. And from that point on, I can do what you do. My why is pulling me through. Once I'm done, I'm done. I'm done. To know that, though, is so... What are some of the things that you can share with people, how they can know that? Because not everyone can do that. And it took something pretty drastic for me.
It's knowing yourself.
Okay.
Level
of awareness.
It's really, really knowing when it's time to make a change. Sometimes people get stuck in a rut, and I always use this example of a donut shop, because there's one not horribly far from where I live, but everything is kind of far from where I live.
Well, sometimes a donut shop far away is a good thing. Right? For me, it would be.
But this woman started this donut shop, and she told me this story because she makes the best apple fritters on the planet. And I asked her, why did you decide to do a donut shop? And she said, well, my husband left. I was pregnant with our third child. I had 3 young children, and I can bake. So what I did is I started baking. And the word got out. People kept buying, and I kept baking, and she's doing it from her kitchen, and then she bought a shop, and it was really growing, and now she's got great grandchildren, and she says, I hate donuts. I asked her, well, why don't you sell it? It's very profitable. You could sell this business. And she said, well, then I don't know what I would do. I said, well, what would you like to do? And that's kind of what it comes down to. And what she would like to do is something entirely different than donuts. She wants to own a clothing store. Well, sell your donut shop, buy a clothing store. She says, I just don't know if I could do a business. You have a business.
You build it from your kitchen. But isn't it amazing?
But that's what people
Because we can't see the picture inside the frame. I mean, because you're telling me things so matter of fact that you went through in your life, and I'm just blown away because we don't see the picture inside the frame.
Right.
It's so hard. But I love that you talked about level of awareness, especially when I speak in the corporate world. for leaders, right? Whether you're a leader, you know, a CEO or a manager or general manager, whatever that is, and really even if you're a leader of your own life and your own family, your level of awareness in yourself and in your team, in your organization, in your family is vital.
Yeah.
Right? For success.
Yep. Absolutely.
For success, to know who you are, because when I go into a business, right, I kind of go in reverse. I always want to enhance my weaknesses and then just run with my strengths. Right. And I am not the guy in the back, right? I am not the guy that's going to sit in the office and keep all the numbers correct and all that, but I'll be the guy in the front bringing the business in. You know, and I've always tried to set myself up that way, and it's worked, because I want to just, I know my weakness is like crazy. I got to fit somebody in to do that for me.
Right.
Then so is that pretty accurate for you?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to know where your weaknesses are as well as your strengths, because that way you can find the right team. You can assemble the right team. Right. And if you don't have the right team, and that's a question I get all the time is, well, if you're owning your own business, it's very lonely. No, you have a team. You know, it's very difficult to do anything without a team.
And you know, it's a good point that I bring this up a lot for entrepreneurs, small business owners. Even if you love it, right? You really, in my opinion anyway, you really should look at this as, how do I work myself out of a job, right? To grow and to expand. Whether or not that's that actual business or not, maybe you want to grow somewhere else. But if you're the only hub, you have nowhere to go. Right. And to me, it just could not work that way. And I always wonder why people want to do that. And I think, you know, maybe part of it is control, the fear of letting go, the fear of, like I had, what else am I going to do? Right. So we're in Encinitas, right by the water, and the train. Right by the train. So I think we have a question. Are you able to read that? So I think we have a question.
What is your ritual to motivate you during your day?
Who is that?
From Lisa Myers-Curris.
Awesome. So what do you have? What's your ritual?
What I do is I meditate. I have a routine every morning when I'm home, which I am not here, but when I'm home, I go outside. I have my own little mini drum circle, one-woman drum circle, if you will, and I drum in each sun, you know, when the sun rises, I drum it up over the mountains, and I'm convinced it would not rise without me drumming over the mountain. But
so for people that don't know that, right? What do you mean drumming?
I have just a hand drum. I just keep a beat. You can clap your hands. I've had drumming workshops where people want to snap or they want to hit their leg.
So it doesn't have to be an actual drum.
It doesn't have to be an actual drum.
The cadence.
I kind of collect them, so I have a bunch. But yeah, and that's what I do. And I have a mantra. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. And I do that until I see the sun fully over the mountain. I do Tai Chi and yoga and meditation.
And still journaling, I'm sure.
Yeah, and journaling. I don't necessarily journal. What I like to do is at the end of every day, I like to write down how my day went. Not in a Dear Diary kind of way, but I met this very cool person and I saw this very wonderful thing, and I try to keep it positive. So if I have a bad day, which I really don't have anymore, but if I have a bad day, I can go back and I can look at all the awesome experiences.
Put back in this perspective, right? And that gratitude. Yeah. I do what I call the victory list, right? Now, I have two businesses. So I just split the sheet down the middle, and this left business, this right business, and then anything personal. And I just write down what I need to get done. And at the end, instead of crossing it off, I just put a little V, you know, for me, right? It's a victory. And then at the end of the day, I can evaluate. And I'm thinking, you know, the entrepreneur, right? Right. I never do enough. I always feel like I haven't done anything. I look down and I got 80% of that list done. And it just makes you put things into perspective, right? It makes you understand. Or it could be the opposite. Yeah. Man, I really didn't do much today. You know. Well,
you know, gratitude is just huge.
Oh, it's the only thing that can turn you around on a dime. Right.
It's absolutely huge.
I use this story a lot. At one of my businesses, when I first moved out here in 2008, I came from New Jersey. I'm from the East Coast, which you guys probably. Every time I meet somebody here, I say I'm not from here. They go, no, really? No idea. So I made a deal with myself. I said, if I'm going to make this move, me and my dog, and that's what it was, went through a divorce and everything, and it's just me and my dog. We're in Point Loma, and I said, if whatever business I do, it has to be passion related first.
Yep.
And profit second, because my other businesses were always profit
Right,
first, and
right.
you know, it was a drudge, right?
Yeah.
So I've been an athlete my whole life. I love sports nutrition. I found this struggling sports nutrition store up in North County Vista, right? This is 2008. So everyone in my inner circle, when I told them what I was going to do, they wanted to put me in a straitjacket. They go, look at the economy.
Right.
You know nobody out there, and you're going to buy a store that's ready to close. I said, I know, but I see some things that they're not doing I think I might be able to do, right? Luckily enough, through a lot of sweat and a lot of tears, by 2012, I wound up flipping it. It made a lot of sense to flip it.
Right.
But it goes back to gratitude. So because I knew the people, and we started to get really popular, I knew the ones that would come in with their head down and complaining and bitching and moaning, right?
Right.
So here I give to St. Jude and Make-A-Wish, so they'll give me updates on the kids. So I'll keep the newest update on the counter, and the one that would come in bitching and moaning, I'd set them up, right?
Yeah.
I had to amuse myself as well. So how's it going? Oh my God, horrible. I mean, it could be worse. What do you mean it could? And I show them a picture of a 12-year-old little girl, right, fighting for her life.
Yep.
And not only that, but if you look at that picture hard enough, she's the rock. The parents are ready to collapse.
Yep.
She's sitting in that bed with no hair. She's the rock. Now, it's interesting. I have some people go, man, you know what? You're right. And then some people would still make excuses saying, well, that's not fair. That's not right. That's not, you know. So I always wanted to see, you know, how it was. But gratitude, to me, is the only thing, if you're honest, right, that will turn it around on a dime.
Absolutely.
I could be in jail. I could be in a hospital bed.
Yep.
Or I could be dead.
Yeah.
You know, that's reality.
Yep.
That's reality. So, is there anything that I didn't talk about that you want to share, that you want to tell people? Because we have entrepreneurs, we have people that just work every day, and that's their thing. You know, they work for a company.
Right.
That's their world.
Right.
Single moms.
Yep.
Grandmoms. Everyone out there. So what kind of words of what we need some golden nuggets. I know you have some.
You know, the biggest thing that always pulled me through was taking a deep breath and saying, you know what, I got this. And you have to trust in something bigger than yourself. You know, you can have all of the self-love and the self-confidence in the world, but that's not going to get you through your worst day, because you could, you know, that kind of gets diminished. It did for me when I was going through my worst. And there's something bigger than all of us. And it's important to realize that each and every one of us has a purpose. There's a reason each and every one of us is here, and never forget that. That pulled me through when everything else was falling away.
That's what did it.
There's a reason I'm here, you know, and I need to keep going to fulfill that purpose and find it.
That was really your savior.
It's just, you know, you keep going until you find it. And you know, there have still been times when I'm not sure I found it, and then, you know, something will happen, or an odd, you know, synchronicity will come into my life, and it's like, okay, I got it. Right. But you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. That's
the key. That would be the golden nugget.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure if there's another question or not, or is that the same question? Because I don't want to jump off if there's another question.
Richard Morrison asks, you said my sister from another mister. My friend Tanya and I use that term.
Is that amazing?
Cool to hear you say
Oh man,
it
what's his name? Richard?
Richard.
All right. Richard, we're knuckling it up. But I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. We met through LinkedIn.
Yep.
I've done her radio show, and she's going to come out for the Thrive event that I'll be speaking at, and we connected.
Yep.
We connected a lot of people together.
Yep.
But I had no idea how deep we were going to get and what we were going to do. But that's what makes this so much fun, right? Kind of like the radio show for you. This is becoming my oxygen, right? I love it.
Right.
My vibration's going up, right? Every time I do this, and I always get surprised.
Yep.
So, and there's it's never a mistake that people meet, good or bad. I believe that. So, where can they find you?
The best way to find me is on whenontheroadtoenlightenment.com.
Okay.
I have a bajillion websites, and they're all linked from there.
Okay. Now, when we jump off, as everyone that watches this all the time knows, but people that don't, it's going to be shared to my Facebook.
Yep.
Now, we're connected on Facebook.
Yep.
So you're going to share it with your information.
Yep.
Anything that they need. If you have any questions, reach out. And if you can't find her, I know where to find her. So just reach out to me. And I think I would love to leave this episode for everything that you shared with this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. And sometimes all that stands between you and the ride of a lifetime is simply getting in the saddle and seeing what you're made of.
Yep.
So go make it happen. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We're going to see you on the next episode. Keep making it happen. And remember, Monster Motivator TV, we come to you. We want to highlight nonprofits, entrepreneurs, business owners in the SoCal area. If you know anybody, have them reach out. We'd love to highlight them and get them out there and blow up anything that we can do that's positive. So keep making it happen, guys. Thank you.